Hello and welcome to day 2 of Ada Lovelace Hackathon. And today is International Day of a Girl Child. So we are here to celebrate young women who are aspiring to become the next, the future female entrepreneurs and innovators and technologists in AI. So we are celebrating this day with 3 most phenomenal speakers, and one of them is already on the call. Dilek is joining us from the States, and she's a principal data scientist at Amazon. So we welcome you, Dilek, and we're really happy and really pleased you are here with us today to celebrate a really, really important occasion and a very important day. So thank you so much for joining us today. So everyone tune in, and in about 15-20 minutes, you will have a chance to ask Dilek all the questions you may have about data science, AI, and anything else related to her incredible journey into data science and AI. Thank you, Dilek. It's over to you now.
Thanks, Elena, for the nice introduction, and thanks for inviting me to give a talk. Yes, I'm Dilek Akkanitur. I am a research scientist at Amazon. And my team basically works on enabling conversational machines. I imagine most of you already know about Alexa and are talking to Alexa. So we are basically working Alexa to be more naturally conversational. And today I'll mainly be talking about social conversations with Alexa. But just to give a higher level overview, we do work on task-oriented conversations. So my team, these are all challenging AI fields. So we basically try to invent new algorithms that would enable these machines to be helping users, talking to them to handle their needs. So one type of interactions, one type of conversations that could happen with the users are task-oriented conversations. In this situation, we imagine users have a goal in their mind, like they would like to book a table at a restaurant, maybe they would like to call a cab, or they would like to buy movie tickets and so on. So I do have a sample task-oriented conversation on the screen. On the left, you see the user turns. On the right, hopefully, the system turns. So in task-oriented conversations, oftentimes, there's an API in the backend that could actually automatically do the intent, in this case, booking a table. Then what do conversations mean? The goal of the conversational system is basically talk to the user. First of all, understand their intent. Would you like to find a restaurant? Would you like to book a table? Would you like to book a cab and so on. The next part basically involves understanding arguments of these users' intent. So they may be looking for an upscale restaurant, which would imply maybe a certain price range. They may be looking for it. They may be specifying the date. They may be specifying the location. So then understanding by the computer side of these forms of utterances is basically taking the user utterances, extracting the arguments, and then formulating them as a call to the API in the backend, which would be given by a set of arguments and value pairs. There are also social conversations, as I mentioned in the very beginning. Here, there is no need for a specific API that could perform a task, but here, the goal is basically to engage in relevant and informative conversations with the users. So this could be things like talking about movies that they have just seen, exchanging comments about the movie, and so on. And I'll talk about these forms of conversations in more detail. Oftentimes, there is no backend API in these cases, but there is the enormous amount of data that is on the web where the conversational system can learn from and then come up with conversational suggestions. And the last area, and this is the topic for today, and the last area that we focus on is multimodal conversations. So in this case, the machine and the user are not just talking in natural language, but the machine can also, for example, see what the user is seeing, or the machine can provide visual information to the user. So the case where the machine can see, for example, could be human-robot interaction. And natural language is ambiguous. Oftentimes we give instructions thinking we have specified everything, but looking at the visual information, for example, in this case, user says, walk straight right before you reach the bed. Looking at the visual information, the robot may be confused because there are two beds in this situation. Then in that case, it should be able to ask questions. Where should I go? And the user should be able to answer it. So for this type of conversations, we don't just look at the language, we look at the multimodal visual information as well. So for social conversations, one of the projects that we have is Alexa Prize. And Alexa Prize is a global university competition. It's a multi-million-dollar challenge that Amazon has been organizing over the past 3-4 years. And basically, we do fund university teams to be able to build conversational systems. And Alexa customers, all of us, we can reach to one of these university teams by just saying, Alexa, let's chat. And then the customer will automatically be paired up with one of the university teams. So sorry, my Alexa kicked off inside. It's in a totally different room, but it's connecting to me to one of the university teams from inside. I'm hoping you guys are not hearing that. I should have muted it. But anyways, so what happens is the university teams try to engage users for a conversational, engaging interaction. And the grand challenge is basically getting a high score from the users. What happens is once the user is talking to Alexa, they can say, Alexa, stop. At that point, we ask to the users, at a scale of 1 to 5, what would the rate of rank, how would you rate this bot? And the grand challenge is enabling these systems to reach a score of 4 on average from the users and hold an engaging interaction with the users for about at least 20 minutes on popular topics. So we just finished the 3rd year of the challenge, and Emory University from Atlanta, Georgia, actually won the $500,000 prize. It was a student team of about 10 students and a faculty supporting them. And there were 10 teams from all over the world. We had one team from Czech Republic, and majority of them were from the US. And the second place winner was Czech Tech Republic from Czech Republic, Czech Tech University. And then the 3rd place was Stanford University. And during this challenge, the scores of these bots have been improving. So on these plots, I do have x-axis is the time, and then y-axis is the average rating that the bots got from the customers. And these are the red and blue lines are the finalist teams, the best teams from the last 2 years of the competition. And as you can see, the scores have been improving on the overall. Now the teams are easily reaching a score of 3.6, 3.7 average per day. Similarly, for the durations of the conversations, again, x-axis is the time. Now y-axis is the 90th percentile conversation duration in seconds. As you could see, now we're about 12 minutes. Teams can hold easily 12 to 13-minute conversations with Alexa users. So what is happening in the background, and how are we helping these teams besides the funding and the resources? First of all, when users say, let's chat to Alexa, what first happens is automatic speech recognition. So Amazon provides speech recognition capabilities. We do recognize user utterances, and we do transition them to a set of tools that we have built. These are natural language processing tools. For example, we can understand if the user says something offensive, inform the team. They could come up with an appropriate response, or we could understand the topic of user's conversation. We extract named entities, we find dialogue acts, we find sentiments of the users, and so on. So each of these are built using machine learning methods. These are all models that we train from data that we gather through crowdsourcing and so on. After this first language processing stage, the goal of the teams is to build they can build components in natural language processing, additional components, but their main goal is to build response generators. So now that we do have some notion of what the users are saying, they do build response generators and response selectors. They do build multiple response generators. We do provide them response generators as well. For example, Amazon has EV question answering system. We do provide answers from EV to them. We do have neural network based response generators, which I'll briefly mention at the end. We do provide them responses from those, and they do build their own response generators, for examples about movies, restaurants, and so on. And they also build their response ranker, meaning you cannot play all the responses to the users. You need to pick one, and they do build algorithms that would learn to select the best response from all the response generators. So after they generate the responses are just in text. But we do provide them text-to-speech synthesis capabilities so that the users can hear the response. And we do provide them ability to do markups on the text output so that they can generate lively speech by playing with the prosody of our text-to-speech synthesis system. And what do I mean by multiple response generators? So as I mentioned, we do provide them EV. User comes in and asks a question. Now we do want to answer that question. Teams usually build response generators for each domain, specializing each domain. A domain could be books, a domain could be movies, and so on. And they can stack our response generators as well, and then they do select one of these responses. And this has been the common approach by a majority of the teams. They oftentimes build and then add additional capability, like on sports, video games, fashion, and so on. Teams do benefit from the knowledge on the web in the forms of knowledge graphs or documents associated with the entities on the knowledge graph. So knowledge graphs are common representations for entities and their relationships. There are a few freely available knowledge graphs out there, like Wikidata, or they can build their own. And use of knowledge graphs enables them to easily switch from one topic to another one. So for example, if the user is talking about Paris, then they can easily mention as the next topic, oh, have you seen the Eiffel Tower, for example. They do use graphs for other purposes as well, but I'll just skip that for now. And so as I mentioned, utterance processing. So in addition to what we have been providing them, teams also do additional utterance processing. So that means the automatic speech recognizer, all it will give you is a sequence of words, sometimes with punctuation by using the prosody of the speech or the properties of the language, but oftentimes it is a monocase sequence of words. So teams do segment them into dialogue acts, which are like sentence-like units in speech. They do associate with them categories, like this is a statement, the user is asking a question, the user is giving feedback, and so on. And they do mark entities, and then link them to the knowledge graph. So this will imply finding Spielberg and Jurassic Park and James Cameron and so on as special entities, and then linking them to special unique IDs that they have on the knowledge graph. And they do sentiment and emotion detection. So they do want to understand user sentiment towards the entity or the concept that is being discussed. And the goal here is to be able to demonstrate empathetic responses back to the user. If the user is not happy about something or they are sad, you would like to come up with an appropriate response and not to annoy them. So these are each of the processing that the teams are doing. And for generating responses, a lot of the teams are building models. They are also building flow charts of dialogue responses. And my team basically works on neural network models for response generation. So basically, given a conversation context, we try to learn neural networks that would learn to generate a response. So this has been work in this, there has been work in this area. This is mainly modeled as a translation problem. That's how we do it as well. We translate from the conversation context or knowledge to the next response. Most people use encoder-decoder networks, and most people look to fine-tune pre-trained language models. So the most popular approach is training large language models these days with the amount of data available on the web, which you can fine-tune to the task at hand. And we do use GPT-2 provided by OpenAI. And finally, you don't just want to generate responses that do not fit in the context or what the user is talking about, or you do not want to mislead the users. So what we do is knowledge-grounded response generation. So once we find the entities, we associate them on the knowledge graph. What we do is we bring relevant knowledge about those entities, like, for example, Wikipedia documents, fun facts about these entities, news stories about these entities, and so on. And here's how it would look like. These are the facts or Wikipedia article that we have about the topic that the user is talking. And our goal would be, assume we are given the first 3 turns of the conversation. Our goal would be generating this 4th turn. And our models are basically learning how to appropriately respond to this context, plus how to copy relevant or important information from the knowledge to the conversational responses, so that we do not mislead the users, but we also come up with engaging and interesting topics. So that's basically it. Thanks for listening, and I'm happy to answer if you guys have any questions.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Dilek. So we're looking at the chat at the moment just to see if there are any questions from teenagers. But before we dive into those questions, could I please ask you to share with us your story? How did you start, and how did you get into data science to begin with? Because for me, every story has got so many incredible, takeaways, particularly for the young women who are, willing to join the careers in data science and AI.
Sure, happy to talk about it. So I did my undergraduate degree in computer science, but I was always interested in language, even before going to college in computer science. It's like high school, middle school, you do learn other languages, right? I realized I'm not really very good in learning other languages. So all of this time I was thinking, like, why do we have to learn it? Why can't we have machines actually do the translation? Because each language has their special properties. My elective was German, and my native language is Turkish. I did learn English at school, but the elective language was very difficult for me because it does have articles and then genders. There is no gender in Turkish language, basically, when it comes to nouns and concepts. So it was very difficult for me. So when I started college, I'm very interested in computer science, but I kept thinking about language. And when I graduated, I thought, it's an area, I learned it's an area. I didn't know that natural language processing is an area before. I decided to do my master's and my PhD in language processing. And that's how it all happened, basically. Originally, I was very interested in just translation, but it turned into a passion towards making machines conversational. Because if you can make conversational machines, they can help you with so many things. Current devices do help with certain things. They're very helpful. We cannot just give up on them that easily. But I do want them to be able to do more, help us more, and so on.
Brilliant. And what did you like to study when you were in school, when you were in high school, for instance? What was the subject that you were really passionate about, and why?
Math.
Math?
Yes. Yeah, I like math for some reason. I don't know, but I'm really, really passionate about math.
Math is
It was,
amazing. Can you please describe?
I got excited about geometry first. Um, it's very cool. Then calculus. Um, I didn't know, like to tell you the truth, when we were learning about the integrals and derivatives, I was thinking like, this is sort of cool, but what are the real applications of them? And these days with the neural network based approaches, I do know the applications very well. Um,
So those young people who really want to get into data science and artificial intelligence, what advice would you offer them? Some of them are still in school. Some of them are wondering what subject should I take, to get into careers in AI and data science. What advice would you offer to them, Dilek?
mhm. I do. Math is very important for computer science in general, and I do suggest, like, if you like, strongly focus on it. But at the same time, if you have a subject of passion, like my daughter is a teenager, she loves music, right? But she likes math and computer science as well. So computer science is this flexible field where it has applications everywhere. You can apply AI to, for example, creativity, towards arts, towards music, and so on. You could apply, like if you're very interested in health, you could apply it to health applications, right? If you're very interested in languages, translation, you could have applications in computer science for language and so on. So I would say if you do like something, don't give up on it, because oftentimes people do really good if they feel passionate about the things that they are working on. That would
Brilliant.
be like my number one advice.
Yes, find your passion, follow your passion, and
Exactly.
yes, and if it involves computer science as well, that's a bonus, right?
Yes,
Fantastic.
exactly.
Brilliant. And talk to me about how you ended up in Amazon as well, and why Amazon. What is it about Amazon Alexa that you are excited about? Because I remember I met the founder of, or the person who designed the algorithm, Evie.
Hmm.
So here in London, and he came to visit us during the very first AI accelerator.
Oh, fantastic.
um, and uh, and I remember he brought with him the very first version of Alexa, and my teenage girls were the first ones to test it in August before it became available on Amazon in October, I think, for UK market.
Mm.
So, and obviously I'm speaking about William Tunstall-Pedo, who obviously is no longer with the company. He is highly influential in the space of AI, particularly voice, but he no longer is with the company, but often speaks in keynotes and conferences. So we had a real
Mhm.
pleasure speaking to him, how it all started and where it all led. So what excites you about Amazon Alexa?
Yeah, I did. I mean, over throughout my career, I did work on multiple research labs. I did work on at the final stages of AT&T Bell Labs, Microsoft Research, Google Research, a research lab at UC Berkeley before joining Alexa. And now Amazon. I do teach at UC Santa Cruz at the same time. So I guess I do follow wherever it is, the topic is really well studied, easily studied. And for systems like conversational systems like Alexa, it is very important to have lots of users, to have lots of data. Oftentimes you learn from the data, or you need to know what you need, how you can extend the capabilities of the system, or where the system is failing. So data is very important, especially conversational AI is a very applied field. So that's basically what drives me to Amazon, because we do have millions of users talking to Alexa every day, and my passion is to make it much better in handling all forms of user requests. So I feel like it is the place to be if you do want to work in this field. That's what drew me to Amazon.
Amazing, brilliant. So we do have a couple of more questions, and they are from the teenagers. I'm going
Great.
to ask them now. So we have one asked by Emily, related to Alexa actually this time. How do you deal with words that can have different meanings depending on the context?
Yes, very fantastic question. Words are ambiguous and they can have different meanings. So two ways. One of them is using as much information from the context as possible. And then context, it could be the user, what just said around that word. That is ambiguous, right? And what the user said before in the previous word, in their previous turn, and so on. This form of contextual information usually helps us to disambiguate. But you could say that, well, there are still things that are ambiguous. But the beautiful thing about conversational machines is if they cannot figure out what that word is, they can come back and ask, did you mean 6 a.m. or 6 p.m.? Well, if it is booking a table for dinner, from the context, from the rest of the utterance, if they say at 6, you can guess this is 6 p.m., but not 6 a.m., right? But if they just 6 without saying anything else, like even book a table, then you may ask them, like, what do you mean? What do you mean by 6? That's always possible. That's, I think, the beauty of dialogues, conversations.
Brilliant. And we have one last question, also from teenagers. Do you have to build replies from letters, words, or snippets, or a mixture of the above? And the second question is, are you only developing this in English or other languages as well?
Yes, okay, fantastic questions again. So it's basically a mixture. So we do certainly have templated approaches that do use snippets. We do also have more machine learning based approaches that would generate words or word segments that are stitched together to come up with the overall utterance. So we do have a mixture of these approaches. And other languages, yes, absolutely. So currently we do have Alexa in multiple languages, and there is a continuous effort to extend the number of languages that Alexa covers, so that we could help more people with their requests.
Brilliant, brilliant. No, fantastic. And thank you so much, Dilek, for this incredible insight into your career and all the advice you have offered. So thank you everyone who tuned in live for all your incredible questions. We have 2 more speakers today and we will be letting Dilek go. Thank you very much once again
for joining us,
Dilek, and have an amazing rest of the day. So
thank you very much. Thanks for listening and inviting. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Brilliant. Thank you. All right. So I know we have another speaker already on the call. Renee, welcome. Do you unmute yourself? And hi.
Thank you, Lena. How are you?
How are you? I'm
Good,
very well. How are you?
Good, thank you.
So thank you so much for joining us. It's a very, very special day today. It's International Day of a Girl Child. It's also Ada Lovelace Day, the day after tomorrow on the 13th. So we are so excited to have you once again join us and support one of our programs. Thank you, Renee. And I am obviously very excited to have you again. And everyone, please meet Renee. She's a criminologist, AI ethicist, and she's been in the industry for a long time. She has already been part of our program before, and once I heard you speak, I wanted to hear more of you and everything you have to say. So it's over to you, Renee. You have about 40-45 minutes, and then we will have lots of questions for you.
Thank you very much. It's really an honor and a pleasure to be with you again. I really love the work that this organization is doing, Teams in AI. I think it's an absolutely brilliant initiative, what you're doing to engage more and more young people in the world of artificial intelligence and to bring them face to face with the future and to create the opportunities that are required. So, of course, today is a big day. It's the International Day of the Girl Child, and it's a wonderful day to be with you. It's an extraordinary moment for us to celebrate the work of women, and particularly the work of Ada Lovelace. It took the world about 100 years to recognize her work, and I think what Teens in AI is doing, and by inviting such brilliant speakers to this virtual platform, is to ensure the work of women is heard, particularly on this day. So let me just tell you a little bit about myself. As Elena said, I'm a criminologist, a criminal psychologist. I also specialized in therapeutic jurisprudence. And now I've been doing work as an AI ethicist, as well as work as a data activist. So data activist is pretty much a new title, and it's a residency that I assumed over the last few days with the University of Virginia. And the work of a data activist is really to look at how data is being used in society, and to look at the impact of that, and to ensure that there is a requisite level of diversity and inclusion and equity, and ensure that everyone in society is allowed to benefit from how data is being applied, as well as to understand the negative impacts that data could have in society as well. So my journey into AI is not your usual journey into the world of STEM. I actually began my career as a journalist, and that career in journalism led me to broadcasting. And I spent a few years in broadcasting. I was actually a sportscaster. And then I got involved in the world of media and communications and public relations and government relations. And that was pretty much the flip side of journalism. And that journey took me into the field of psychology. And for many years, I worked as a psychologist in the court system in New York City, in Manhattan, where I live. And that love for psychology and for using the law in a therapeutic way, because I worked in the realm of rehabilitation, led me to criminal justice and criminology and criminal psychology. And I spent the last 15 years in particular looking at violent crime and how violent crime impacted communities and how violent crime impacted young people, and looking at things like youth violence, gun and gang violence, homicide, violent crimes against children and women. And I spent really a lot of time in that realm, training law enforcement officers on how to investigate crimes, how to solve violent crimes. But something really impacted me while I worked in criminology, which were the statistics, the homicide statistics. And I think a lot of people look at statistics as homicide, a death, someone died. But I always looked at the intergenerational relationship of a number, and how that one individual who has been murdered, how that death impacts so many other lives. And that love for numbers, and really understanding what rests behind the data, the emotions, the value system, the futures that rest behind the data, the tragedy, the trauma, all of these things really sparked my interest in AI. And I got my foot in the door in AI from a risk management perspective, because much of what I do in artificial intelligence is about risk management. It's about detecting and mitigating risks that enter the data sets, risks that find themselves into the design and the deployment of AI systems, and managing those risks, and actually deploying alternatives. And one of the alternatives that I deploy when it comes to a risk management strategy would be inclusive technology. So I advocate for inclusive technology to ensure that there is diversity and there is equity in technology, and there is also visibility of all groups, representation and amplification of all groups. So just a little background on how criminology and artificial intelligence comes together. you would realize that many of the AI systems and tools that are being deployed have a criminal justice fusion. Many of them are being deployed in the realm of policing, in sentencing, in corrections, and just in public safety and public security, just in that realm. So technologies like facial recognition, which is one of the most contentious right now, sensor technologies, technologies that do predictive analytics as it pertains to policing or predictive policing, big data policing, intelligence-led policing. And now there are many companies that are designing tools that are supposed to predict the emotions and the propensity and proclivity for criminality, many of them very controversial and very contentious. So one of the things that I've always said is that criminal justice, in particular criminology, must be the conscience of AI, because a lot of the big risks that we are seeing AI are happening in the realm of criminal justice. And you would understand that criminal justice is really about life and death. It's about your life, it's about your liberty, it's about due process, and really about those rights, civil rights and human rights. So I speak a lot about AI ethics and the fact that AI must be ethical, which means that any AI system we are designing has got to be not only diverse and inclusive and equitable, but it must always be accountable, transparent, explainable. It must be fair, non-discriminatory, and technology in particular, new and emerging technologies, data-driven technologies like AI must be fair. So as an AI ethicist, I advocate a lot for stakeholder engagement. I advocate a lot for communities having a voice, a collective voice in the development of technology. And you may have heard the term public interest technology, technologies that seek to protect the public interest, technologies that require public buy-in in the design and the development of those technologies. So I'm very passionate about AI. And on the flip side, I also do AI leadership. So I speak to organizations on how to adopt AI technologies, how to bring AI into their organizational systems, and how to ensure those technologies that they are using are ethical and that organizations have a culture of ethics that really informs the work that they're doing. Why do I love AI so much? Because AI has the power and the potential to change the world. And we are seeing it happening right now. And we're seeing it happening more so because of COVID-19. And as we as a world try to negotiate and navigate our way out of COVID-19, what we're realizing is more and more industries are embracing AI technologies. Because one, we're seeing when it comes to communications, when it comes to retail, people are looking for that contactless experience. We're seeing healthcare, precision healthcare being informed by AI. We're seeing AI able to do extraordinary work when it comes to creating therapeutics and clinical approaches and engineering approaches, medical engineering approaches to many of the illnesses and diseases that we have. We're also seeing it changing the way in which the world communicates, in which we're engaging. Look, at this moment, we're engaging via this platform, Zoom. We're also seeing AI being used in ways to deal with climate change and flooding and smart cities and really reorganizing the world in a way in which the world could become more efficient and more effective. But where there is promise, there is also peril. Where there is reward, there is also risk. So we're also seeing that while these extraordinary advancements are being made in AI, we're also seeing that there are some people who are not sharing in those benefits. There are some people who are not sharing in that process of co-designing the future. So it is very important the work that I'm doing, particularly as an AI ethicist and now as a data activist, to bring those underrepresented and unrepresented groups into AI. And this is why today is so important. When we think of artificial intelligence and we think of some of the risks that we have seen so far, in particular when it comes to gender, AI systems that are deployed in the human resource industry looking to recruit new talent, and these algorithms that really exclude women or people of color, or individuals with disabilities, or persons who may not have access or mobility. We've got to ask ourselves, how do we improve these technologies to make them more inclusive? So that passion, because of the power and the pervasiveness and the potential and the promise of AI, makes me continually advocate for the inclusion of more women. And much of the work that I do is really to ensure that there is more diversity, and that diversity is not always women. It includes not only gender, but race, as I said, disability, mobility, access. All of these things are very important. So when it comes to AI, and I'm really sorry at this moment, I'm having a little sinus issues here, but when it comes to AI, I want you to start to think about your role. And as we celebrate today, which is the International Day of the Girl Child, and as you celebrate Ada Lovelace, who is considered the world's first coder for the algorithm that she designed, and as I said, unfortunately, it took the world about 100 years to recognize what she did as a mathematician for science and technology and STEM in general. So you have a role to play as well, because today, and because of this program, and because of Teens in AI, you are face to face with the future, and you have an opportunity to stretch the imagination of artificial intelligence. What AI requires right now is multidisciplinary thinking that engages different disciplines. So I bring criminology, I bring psychology, I bring a bit of neuropsychology, I bring communications to it, I bring journalism, and I try to fuse all of this to keep me intellectually curious and to stretch my own imagination. So I'm asking you, how do you plan to stretch the imagination of artificial intelligence? Because what we are seeing so far is, although AI is doing extraordinary things, AI is also replicating and encoding some of those old biases, discrimination, prejudices, things like systemic racism are being encoded into some systems. And this is why AI ethics is so vibrant at this moment, because what AI ethicists like myself are trying to do is install those guardrails to ensure the requisite levels of protection when it comes to privacy and security, accountability, transparency, non-discrimination, and that whole drive to inclusion. What are you going to do to stretch the imagination of AI? The other thing that I want to talk about is advocacy. And I believe in our work as AI ethicists, as coders, as data scientists. No matter what your specialization is going to be, you've got to bring a measure of advocacy to the table. And when I say advocacy, I'm not speaking about protest. I'm speaking about courage. I'm speaking about confidence. I'm speaking about heart and passion. And that is another way to look at advocacy, because advocacy ensures that every time you move forward, you are also creating space for other individuals to enter. And that's what I want you to think about. How is your work going to improve this fraternity, this industry of data scientists and other technologists working in new and emerging technologies? And then you've got to ask yourself, how am I going to use this technology to make this world a better place? And that's not a cliche, that's real. And you've got to make this world a better place in real time. because you are the future, you are the now. And you've got to ask yourself, what am I going to do with this technology? So as you stretch the imagination of AI, as you ensure there's that multidisciplinary fusion, as you advocate in your work to ensure there is diversity and equity and inclusion, ethical technology, inclusive innovation, you also got to ensure that your work is making this place better. And you've got to do that. The other thing that I want you to take about is, how do you use this technology to lift people up? And I'm really serious when I say lift people up, because it is something that I have committed myself to doing. I have committed myself to ensuring more criminal justice graduates get into artificial intelligence, because so many of the technologies, the tools, the systems that are being deployed are focused on the criminal justice system. And we've got to ensure that we don't deploy additional harms to certain communities that have already been marginalized and victimized and alienated. What are you going to do? What are you going to do to lift people up with this technology, to pull communities forward with this technology? The other thing that I want you to think about is magic. Today is a magical day. Today is the International Day of the Girl Child. And I'm a girl child, and I have a girl child. I have a 17-year-old daughter. And it's about magic. And what you are going to do in your career as you move forward with artificial intelligence is you are going to create magic. And you have got to ensure that the magic that you create celebrates the history of the technology, the history of how the technology has been applied in best practice circumstances, the history of how this technology is being used to improve lives, the history of women like Ada Lovelace, the history of all the brilliant minds that have assisted in bringing this technology this far. So what's the magic that you're going to create? You've got to ask yourself that. And then change. We've got to always think about change. When I speak about making the world better, it's about changing the systems that need to be in change. It's about improving. It's about enhancing. It's about deconstructing, reconstructing. It's about rebuilding. It's about repositioning. You have the power to do that. You have the power to do that, because you will be creating the magic that is going to co-design the future. And you are now face to face with that future that you are going to co-design. I also want to speak to you about data. And data is the lifeblood of artificial intelligence. And as a data activist, I deconstruct data, because what we have come to realize is that many of the biases, many of the prejudices that slip into our data sets are now baked into those data sets because of the kinds of histories we have experienced as a world, from colonization to enslavement to oppression, to many of these systems that we are not proud of as a society, but systems that have brought us this far forward, and systems that we have got to recreate and we've got to reinvent. And I want you to think about that. I want you to think about the data always that you're using, and do the work that is required sometimes to dismantle that data, and to ensure that even the approaches that you use when you're looking at the data sets, that you ask some questions. And it's what I call data consciousness, and it's what I call data vigilance. And it speaks to a particular duty of care that we have as technologists, as developers, as designers, as ethicists, as individuals who have been given a responsibility to co-design the future. So you've always got to remember duty of care. And duty of care is to ensure that the work that you do is done with a requisite measure of due diligence and an understanding of that do no harm principle. And then there's that concept of due process. And due process means we must ensure that people's rights are respected. We must ensure that people's rights are also protected. So I want you to think about that. I also want you to think about what is going to be your legacy with this technology. And legacy is critical to technology because all technologies have an impact on society. And those impacts could be positive, those impacts could be negative. So you've got to think, what is the legacy I want to leave with this technology? And while we want to design things that are going to change the world, things that are going to make the world more effective and more efficient, and things that are going to make the world faster, and things that are going to bring us face to face with the services that we want in real time. Remember the high percentage of individuals across the world who are yet to be engaged in the technology. The millions who may not have internet access, the millions of young women across the world today who may not know what their opportunities are going to be, who may not have the resources to create the kinds of opportunities they would like, who may not have the kind of access required to operate in a world of agency and to feel empowered. And sometimes, or most times, as technologists, as ethicists, as activists, as individuals who are going to create, we travel with that power. So you've got to always remember the privilege that you have to design or to engage in a particular technology and the power that you are going to have when it comes to design. And you've always got to think of design and ethics, privilege and power, and how are you using that? Are you using that to empower future generations, or are you using that to disempower future generations? Are you using that to democratize the technology to ensure a broad base can engage in it? Or are you using it to personalize the technology, which is also another form of exclusion? So I want you to think about it. I want you to really think about the kind of work that you are going to do. Also, think about where you are now and think about where do you want to go. This is an extraordinary program because it's giving you an opportunity to engage and to engage at an extraordinary level. But also remember that in our own lives and at this particular stage of our lives, there are many things that we have got to deal with, many things that we are also dealing with when it comes to our personal lives, when it comes to our families, when it comes to decisions that we've got to make in life, and particularly now when it comes to the fact that we're existing in a world that has been impacted by a pandemic. There are many things that we've got to think about. We know with this public health crisis, we also have a financial crisis that the world is experiencing. We know that Black, Indigenous, people of color have been hit very hard by this pandemic. We know financially, we know health-wise. We also know that there is a mental health crisis that's also spiraling this pandemic. And yesterday we celebrated World Mental Health Day. So many times when we are trying to build our future and trying to understand what is going to happen for us, it's not an easy journey. It's not an easy journey. And this is why you have got to know that everything you need, you already have in you. And this is why it is so important also to participate in opportunities that offer you that level of mentorship and guidance. And one of the things that I try to do is mentor, and I do that right now through an organization that I'm involved in called Women in AI Ethics. And it's really about mentorship, and it's about holding each other's hands, you know, even virtually, to take each other every step of the way. So I want you to understand that sometimes in life, we have tough decisions to make, and we've got to be open to the experience, but you have got to also know that you are the experience as well. So if it is that there are other things or other barriers in your life that may be obstacles to really achieving the kind of success that you are able to achieve, it's really important for you to reach out. And one of the things that I want you to know is that I am always available to this organization, to anyone in this organization, to any of the young people, any of the teens who need to talk to someone, who needs a piece of advice, who just need to brainstorm or to just ask anything about your career. I'm here and I could be reached through the organization. So just to bring it all back, and then I know I've discussed many things, this is a brilliant moment for you. This is a great day. Artificial intelligence in particular is now getting more and more attention because of COVID-19 and because of the fact that we've got to come up with more innovative solutions to move this world forward, to protect our health, to protect our communities, to protect our societies, and really to rebuild and build back better after the impact of COVID-19. So more and more industries, I think just about every industry is embracing AI. So it's a great place. It's an extraordinary opportunity. It's a kind of career trajectory that can bring you an extraordinary amount of success. But I want you to think about the magic you're going to create. I want you to think about the ways in which you can combine multidisciplinary thinking to stretch the imagination of artificial intelligence. I want you to think about that concept of always being data conscious and being data vigilant, understanding the power that you will hold as a coder, as a designer of technology, as someone who creates a startup, as an entrepreneur, as someone who is just working in the realm of AI. You have a power, you have a privilege. You've got to use this technology to build societies up. You've got to use this technology to build your communities up. You've got to use this technology to create the diversity that is required, to encourage and promote that level of inclusion that is also required. You've got to also ensure, as you are co-designing the future, which is such an extraordinary responsibility, that you are making space. And that's one of the things that I continue to do, is when I get into a space, I try to create as much room as I can for more individuals who are underrepresented, unrepresented, who are not visible, who need to be there to enter that space. And it's about providing the level of confidence that they need and that little more courage that they need to bring them into those spaces. So I look at life as a relay. And in a relay, it's about each of us taking a leg of that race and each of us reaching to a place where we pass the baton on. And it's very important. If someone in that relay drops the baton, the race can be lost. And the handing over of the baton is something that is very, very sophisticated and something that's very tactical, because that person is already moving with a particular level of speed, and you've got to put that smoothly and perfectly in that person's hand. And I think today that is my role. That is my role, to pass that baton on and to let you know this, as of today, you will be running that final leg of the race, or your leg of the race. And then when you reach a particular stage like I've reached, you've got to pass that baton on. So I just want to say that I wish I could see all of you, which I can, but to let you know that you've been given an extraordinary opportunity. You've been given an extraordinary responsibility from this day forward. And as you build your own career, as you build your own career, always remember the individuals who may not have the opportunity that you are having at that moment, and think of creative ways to use this technology to share that opportunity globally with all of the individuals who need to be empowered by this technology, who need to use this technology, and just go out there and create magic. And when it's all finished and you've left your legacy, all you've got to say to yourself is, I've done a great job, and I know that I have made this world a better place for the next generation. Thank you.
My goodness, Renee, this was so amazing. You made me cry, so I'm not going to turn my camera on. But I always get goosebumps when you join us. This is the second time, and last time just was not enough. You only had 20 minutes, and I thought this time it's never enough for me to hear you speak, because there is something so special about you, and I am so grateful, eternally grateful that you have joined us as a keynote today. This is a very special day, a very special moment in the in times we live in as well, and we really do need to elevate more women and really passing that baton. When you were speaking about it, I felt like you were speaking to me, and I really hope that every single girl, every single woman out there that is listening to this stream, either now or after this stream, really hears that within herself, within her heart, that it really is we're speaking to them directly in the same way as I've just heard you speak to me. So I am super grateful, Renee, that you've come to join us. It's a super special day, and having someone like you on a day like this is so important to me, because I know it will resonate with every single woman out there who's trying to break into this career. So we have got some questions for you, and the first one I would love to ask you is, a lot of young people, living in these really uncertain times, they don't believe in their ability to do anything. They would say, well, I'm only 14, I'm only 15. What can I add to this conversation on AI? What do you think can a young person at this time add to the conversation on AI? Why are young people's voices important in this?
Definitely. Young people's voices are critical in AI because, as I said, young people are the future, and the future is not just the now, it's just what's going to become. Young people have got to take the leadership role, and I think what young people are bringing now is extraordinary perspective. Young people are also bringing more of a respect for diversity and equity and inclusion. And because of how the world is changing, and because of how young people are thinking at this moment, I think young people of this generation have some of the most brilliant minds, some of the most compassionate minds, and some of the most empathetic minds. And I think young leadership, those voices, combined with their ability to use technology, because anyone who's 14 or 15 or 16, 17 at this time, you were born into technology. You probably have never experienced a landline or a payphone. You were born into the time of a cell phone, of a computer, of TikTok and Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat. So you are technological just by the time in which you are born. And when you add that technology to the kind of thinking and perspective and ideas that young people are having at this moment, and the kind of diversity that I'm seeing among young people, and their just natural easiness and readiness to embrace difference and to embrace diversity and to just amplify their own voices. I mean, it's brilliant. All you've got to do now is translate that by the kind of career path you take, the kind of studies that you take, and how you channel that. So I think young people, this generation, absolutely brilliant. And I think they have what it takes to lead us. And they've just got to step into that leadership role, knowing that, individuals like myself and Teens in AI and all these other organizations have got your back. So I think they've just got to stand up and just push forward now, because they're brilliant. And I think I'm just blown away I am blown away by the kind of leadership perspective, the kinds of ways in which young people are thinking about the world. We've never seen this before.
Absolutely. No, this is so important. And like Renee said, you are all so privileged you're participating in this program. I'm still racking my brains and trying to figure out how I can get this program to become available in, villages and towns, which don't even have basic infrastructure. They don't even have Wi-Fi. They don't have access to basic technology. I really, really want this program to be available in any part of the world for any young person, because it's so crucial. We involve so many diverse voices into this kind of conversation. So thank you, Renee, for pointing it out and validating this. So we have some other questions, and one of them is on the history. How important is history when looking forward to a positive future with AI? That comes from a teenager.
That's a brilliant question, and I'll just share some of the work that I'm doing. So one of the things that I do as a data ethicist, an AI ethicist and a data activist, or a data ethicist, right, is I look at the history of data. And as I said to you, when I look at the history of data, I look at how data has been collected, how data has been classified, and how history has informed data. So if you look at the history of the world, and you look at, let's say, Black, Indigenous people of color, and you look at something like colonization, and you look at how Indigenous people were treated historically, then you've got to ask yourself, how was the data that we're using now collected? So the history of data is critical to the data that we are using right now, because the history of colonization and oppression and all the types of suppressions and repressions that we've seen have found their way into the data. So as data ethicists, AI ethicists, data activists, what we are trying to do now is to push back and to find ways, technological, societal, educational ways in which we can now deconstruct data and take some of that negative history out of it. And then there's the positive history. You have someone like Ada Lovelace, who is considered the world's first coder, who wrote the world's first computer program, who had this brilliant mathematical mind, and who really was so ahead of her time and so ahead of her game. But because of history and because of how women, the work of women was not recognized pretty much until the feminist movement called for rethinking of that, you see that it took 100 years for her to actually be recognized for her work. So history is important, and history is also important because you want to understand the history. You want to understand the history of technology, and understanding the history of technology makes us understand the kind of risks and makes us ensure that we don't want to replicate those risks. And if you understand your history, then you could always build a better future. So that's an excellent question, because you have got to understand the history of technology and its impacts on society, the positive and the negative, to build and design and deploy AI in a way that it does no harm and in a way that it's good for all.
Brilliant. We have a question on facial recognition and biases related to facial recognition. So there has been a lot of very interesting work done in respect to facial recognition. So what would be your stance? And there is a question from a teenager: can facial recognition be really biased?
Well, the fact of facial recognition and its bias is this, and much of the work when it comes to facial recognition. Now, there is facial recognition that uses biometric data, and we use it to get into our phones, we use it to access our computers, we use it for banking. We use it for many things, and that's important because it's an important technology. Where facial recognition becomes problematic is this deployment as a criminal justice or crime fighting tool. And that's where we're seeing the challenges, because the data sets that were used to train the algorithms to train the AI model were not diverse. And what we've seen with the technology, it is very questionable. It has overpromised, and it is very inaccurate when it comes to recognizing Black, Indigenous people of color and women in particular. So when you have a database that's not mature enough, when you're using this technology in a way that is to marginalize and to victimize and to recriminalize, and when the technology is designed with an imagination that comes from a place of systemic racism, then you have all of these biases in the technology. So you would see, particularly in the US, it's become very contentious. Some cities have already banned the technology from being used. Microsoft, IBM, Amazon have put a moratorium on further development of this technology, particularly in the United States, because of what happened with the murder of George Floyd and the Black Lives Movement. And you felt at that moment, many of the big tech companies were realizing that they were supporting technologies that were really undermining social justice and undermining racial justice, so they pulled back on it. So while biometric technologies are important, facial recognition as deployed within the context of crime prevention and criminal justice, and really as a preventative tool for law enforcement to use, has proven to be a way too immature as a technology. Because when you think of what we have seen right now, which would be cases of mistaken identity. In the US, we've already had several cases of wrongful arrest of individuals because of facial recognition. It comes back to when I spoke about duty of care and when I spoke about due process and your civil rights and your human rights. Facial recognition at this moment will undermine those rights that you most certainly deserve.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. And there is a TED talk that I will share in Discord on specifically on the topic of facial recognition by Joy. And I will ask that this will be a required TED talk that everyone has to watch today. So, and we do have another question from teenagers, and it's specifically also related to the ethics. Do you think there should ever be a boundary with AI?
Excellent question. There's got to be a boundary. So this is what's happening with AI. As with all technology, you would understand that technological development is always light years ahead of the laws that are required to regulate it. Also with AI, there's that question about regulation, or whether or not we should allow the market forces and competitive energies to allow it to develop. So there's lots of questions about antitrust and taxation and how do we regulate. Remember, technology can be used positively and it could be used negatively. And while it's being used positively for one group, it may also have a negative impact on another group. And this is why AI ethics is so important as a field, because AI ethics looks at questions such as diversity, who's being included, who's being excluded, equity. Is this technology equitable? Are we seeing equitable representation of groups and individuals and communities and industries in this? Is it inclusive technology? Does it include all of us? It also looks at privacy, and privacy is a major issue. Privacy is also linked to facial recognition, and they say in the world that we exist now, I think they say that every time we come out of our homes, our photographs are probably taken, or we're probably being featured on over 40 cameras. And if you live in the UK, it's probably more than that. If you live in China, they've deployed millions of cameras there as well. So you've got to think about privacy. Also security, and we know there are bad actors, and we know systems can be hacked. We've got to think about accountability. How accountable is this technology? Okay, you've got to think about explainability, because what AI does many times is you have an algorithm and you have a black box, And that black box is making a decision, and that decision needs to be explained, because if this technology denies someone access to a particular school, or gives you a lower grade, or denies you access to a loan for a mortgage, or puts you out of the running for a job, there needs to be an explanation. And this is why I say the technology must do no harm. And AI ethics is built on that principle of do no harm. Ensure that you apply the requisite levels of due diligence to everything that you're doing, and ensure that you do not erode or trample over due process, people's rights. So AI, extraordinary technology, very powerful, very pervasive, has a lot of potential to change the world. Great rewards for society, but also great risks. And when you are designing, or you're developing, or you're working with that team, I want you to think about that moving forward. As we build this technology, what are we destroying with it? So, yeah.
Brilliant. And we do have perhaps one more question for you before we let you go. And this is, of course, a very, very important question for all of us, and related to diversity. How do you think can we use AI to promote diversity? Do you think ethics modules need to become compulsory in any computer science uni degree as a complement, as a sort of add on to this question as well? But most importantly, how can we use AI technology to actually promote diversity?
All right, so I'll start with the beginning, but the end of the question is my beginning. I keep saying that AI is a new language. And with every language, you've got to be literate in that language, and you've got to learn the language. So I think when it comes to AI ethics, it's something that we've got to introduce at the early education stage, from the kindergarten stage, because young people, children, are coming into this world. And as they get into this world, they're on an iPad, or they're on a cell phone, or many of the tools, the toys that are being designed are coming with that element, their technological choice. So we've got to include AI ethics from the earliest stage of development. So it's a form of civics. It's a form of civics. So as you understand your rights, and you understand the Constitution in whatever country that you live, and understand how you are supposed to engage as a citizen, you need to understand AI ethics. Very, very important. Yes, more and more universities are ensuring that AI ethics is now as a discipline part of the curriculum for anyone involved in STEM, because in medicine there's biomedical ethics, in philosophy there's ethics, and in journalism there's ethics. So in AI, ethics is now being included. I was recently involved in the development and design of a new program that's being offered in Coursera that looks at, it's a certification that speaks to being an ethical emerging technologist, which combines everything that you need to know about AI ethics. So more and more you're seeing the industry asking for that certification, to understand that new and emerging technologists, data scientists, developers all understand ethics. It is critical, because so far what we've been seeing is, yes, there's been some great work, but there have been some huge mistakes when it comes to AI, mistakes that have re-victimized vulnerable population, that have re-victimized a woman, that has re-victimized Black, Indigenous people of color. And we're seeing that happening because of that lack of an ethical approach, or the lack of a culture of ethics at the organization, or the lack of an understanding. And how do we do this? We use the technology to create diversity. So there are ways in which we can design algorithms to ensure that if we're recruiting, it's diverse. If we're hiring, it's diverse, to send and to do public education and public engagement multiculturally, to ensure that we bring diverse voices and ideas and imagination into it. One of the other things that I celebrate a lot is what I call ancestral AI and indigenous imagination. And some of the work that I'm doing now around data and tragedy and trauma looks at the ways in which we've got to walk back into history and celebrate the work of the indigenous imagination. So much of the work that I'm doing will soon look at Native communities, in particularly Native American in the US, and Indigenous peoples and Maori people in New Zealand, and look at the ways in which data sovereignty is combined or infused with native sovereignty and communities. So very, very important. AI ethics has got to be really spearheading the work that we do in the realm of AI, because what we want to do is ensure that AI is good for all. And that's how we've got to do it, by taking an ethical approach to this technology.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Renee. This was super helpful because we have got a lot of teenagers who are designing solutions in mental health, education, climate change, lots of really critical problems that they're trying to solve. And so it was so important that we heard from you today, one of the most incredible experts in the field of ethics. So everyone, we will be letting Renee go, but she did mention that you can reach out to her and ask her more questions or seek her support or advice. So we are very grateful, Renee, for your time today once again. I can listen to you for hours, but I know it's Sunday today. It's only, start of the day for you. So we will be letting you go. And once again, thank you for joining us on this very, very special day. It was a real pleasure having you with us today, Renee.
It's always a pleasure to be there. And to the young people, I just want to say you're absolutely amazing. You have everything in you that you need. And just go out there and co-design a world that you're going to be proud of. Thank you.
Brilliant. This is exactly what I wanted to hear. Thank you so much, Renee. And we will be seeing you very soon.
Bye-bye.
Take care. And so everyone, we have another really amazing speaker with us today, and that is Fadji. Fadji, hi. Do tune in, turn your camera on.
Yeah.
Hi, how are you? So good to have you with us.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm so excited to be there.
Really amazing to have the most incredible speakers today with us on International Day of a Girl Child. How important is this day for you, Fadji?
It's very important for me as a girl also coming from developing country. I think that we need to change the world. We need to talk about girls, our rights, because we know that even if we have made progress, we have a lot to do today. So we need a day like this to be able to show to the girls that they can do whatever they want, they can achieve, and they have the opportunity to do it, and they have the ability also to do it. So I think days like these are very special for me because we can talk about the right of the girl and then encourage our sisters and daughters.
Amazing, fantastic. So everyone, this is Fadji Maina, who is at NASA, is one of the data scientists at NASA, Earth data scientists. And Fadji was the one who looked at all of the challenges we have proposed to you in relation to wildfires and floods. And it is not by coincidence, that we have invited Fadji. Obviously, she's incredibly influential in the space of data science, particularly being Nigerian in NASA as well. It's so rare. So I'm so humbled and really honored you have joined us here today. And so it's now over to you. We're here to listen to your story, to be inspired. And there are lots of girls and boys and everyone else tuning in right now to specifically hear your incredible story. So it's over to you, Fadji.
Great. Thank you very much, Elena, and thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy today to share my story with you. I don't know if I can go ahead and share my slide, my screen, because I do have some pictures for you.
Yes, let me upgrade you into co-host, and then you will definitely be able to do that.
Is it okay now? Yeah, sure. Fantastic.
Can you do that now? Fantastic, brilliant. Over to you.
Let's try to see if I can do that. Yeah. Great. So thank you, everyone. I just put some slides just to show you some picture of what I'm doing and where I come from, and we are going to talk a lot about it. So I'm Fadji Maina, and I am a Earth scientist at NASA Goddard in the United States of America. Today I'm going to talk about my journey from Niger, you will know the country later, to NASA, And really what I want to point out today is science can, or like your passion, it can be whatever you are passionate about, can take you to unexpected places, like something that happened to me. So where I come from Niger. Niger is different from Nigeria. It's another country. Nigeria, they are speaking English, and Niger, we are speaking French. I was born and raised in Zander. Zander, I'm going to talk about that places. Zander is basically a small town in Niger, which is located 1,000 kilometers away from the capital. In where the city I was born, we do not have international airport. It was a city in the middle of nowhere. In this picture, you can see the Zander. Two pictures on the extreme. We do have like how the city looks like, and then my city is well known for water resources scarcity. As I was a child, I grew up with people really looking for water every day. You can just picture like a society where every day when you wake up, you do not have water. We do not have tap in our home. We need to go out, and girls especially have to go out to look for water and to come back home to be able to take shower, to be able to cook cooking and other stuff. So as a girl, as a child in Zander, I was asking to myself, what can I do to my community? What can I do to my society? And when we think about the question and like where we came from, for me, it's evident. I need to study water because water is a big problem in my society and in my town. But also, I love studies. I really love study when I was a child. I was a very curious child. I could just go and ask a lot of questions about like what's happening in the nature, in our environment. How is it? How is that? And at the same time, I know that we need water, and I want to improve the lives of many people in my country. So for me, it's obvious that I need to do more studies. From Zander, Niger, my country in West Africa, I went to Morocco. This is a picture of my university in Morocco. And then I have to study earth sciences. Where do I left my country? Because I have to. As I mentioned, in my city, we do not have international airport. And back in the days when I was finishing high school, we do not even have university in my town. So basically, if you need to go to do some studies, you need to leave the country. And I finished high school at the age of 16. So basically, as a child at 16, my parents had to choose between leaving me in the town because I was a small child. I'm not going to go to the university, or let me go to university. Finally, my parents for sure selected to let me go to university at 16. And having in mind that I need to study water, at university, I say that water is just a small part of our earth. So I need to understand that earth. That's why when I was in Morocco, I studied earth sciences in my bachelor. But then when you finish your bachelor, still you think about all these solutions that you need to provide. Now I understand the earth. I need to really go into that water and to understand what that water means and how can I do that. From Morocco, I moved to France. All my study in Morocco and in France, I was very fortunate to have scholarship. So my parents actually did not pay school for me. I was applying for scholarship. I was like really looking for all the opportunities that I can have to be able to educate myself, and also having in mind that I have to, because I need to help my community. What I did, I went from Morocco when I finished my bachelor. I went to France to do my master, and that's where I really tried to look at technology. And that's where I found that actually we can use technology to be able to tackle water resources issues. That's what I did when I was in France. So basically, what am I doing? I'm using high performance computing systems on all these big machines that we do have in here today to be able to simulate the water cycle. The water cycle is that picture that we do have here. Basically, you have the water cycle that we learned back in the days. We have precipitation coming, and then water is going to flow in the river, in the underground, and then transpiration. So we are using all these technology and also this mathematical model and machine learning stuff. And here I'm showing one of the computer that I was using in California, and this one is one of the top 5 supercomputers in the world back in the days. And we combine this computer and this technology with satellite data to be able really to understand the water cycle across many countries and continents. So I got my PhD at the age of 25 years old. As I say, I'm coming from Niger, and the literacy rate of Niger is 19%. And actually, even today in 2020, 76% of Nigerian girls are married before the age of 18, which means that only 20% of the Nigerian girls can actually go to university and do bachelor. And when we go to PhD, basically, it's really rare to be able to find a Nigerian girl with a PhD. So I was able to do it at the age of 25. I received a lot of interviews back in the days. That was in 2016, magazine cover in my country saying, hey, this girl, she can do it. She got her PhD at the age of 25 and she's from Niger. So really, when we educate our girls, when we give our girls some power, they can really go to achieve something great. And actually, also in 2016, I met the first lady of Niger, which she was very sportive, and she told me that that's great, and we need to empower girls to do that. But that didn't stop me. Basically, it gave me the courage that I needed to be able to pursue my career and to be able to pursue my God. Because sometimes when you find yourself in an environment that you are alone, basically, I can feel that I was alone in that environment. I'm that Nigerian girl. I do not know Nigerian scientists around myself, or so many, it might be African scientists or Black scientists. But if you have in your back all your society and your country that is supporting you, you can just keep moving forward. And also, by the way, my PhD was deemed exceptional by the jury, and I got the award that is called Kepler Award. Kepler Award says basically it's the most well done PhD at the University of Strasbourg. That's a picture of my PhD defense back in France in 2016. So one thing that I learned also, science does not have boundaries. I can go all over around the world to be able to understand what's happening around the world in different countries. And by the way, I can get to know also other people around the country to be able to see like how the culture is changing, like what other people are doing. That only can improve my way of understanding stuff. So after finishing my PhD in France, I moved to Italy. When I studied, I worked at Politecnico di Milano. And Italy is a new country. It's also a new language because I had to go from France basically to Italian. That's also something that I learned throughout my study, is you don't have to like keep talking in one language. You just have to go to the world, speak all the languages that you can do, learn, because you can do it. And you are young, you are eager, you can go and do whatever you want to do today. So I learned to speak Italian, as my French, and also Hausa, which is the language of Niger. And I stayed 1 year in Italy, and there I really studied water resources in Italy. After Italy, I'm someone that who loves to travel and then to discover the world. And really, as I said also before, I really took opportunities. Whatever happened to me, just go ahead and like I will always keep looking at opportunities. What can I do? How can I do that? Okay, how can I improve what I have today? Because we need to keep in mind that basically what we do have today, it's not like the end. The knowledge is infinite. Everything is infinite. We can always go up until, I don't know. So from Italy, I moved to the United States of America. I got a job in Berkeley, California, and there it was like really using cutting edge technologies, because if you think about artificial intelligence, AI, machine learning, all this technology, we have California in mind. We have Silicon Valley in our mind. So I was like, okay, I was using this technology to address water resources issue. And basically, I know that in California and the United States, you have top supercomputer I can work with, and they have also interesting problem. If you think about climate change, basically, California is one of the states that it's happening. It's just like in the future, they are like way forward. We have wildfires, we have water resources problem. So it's like all this kind of problem at the same time, they have the technology to do it. So I was very excited to come to California to be able to use that technology to address a very important question like water resources problem in the era of climate change. And in California, I work to understand how wildfires affect water resources in California. And I put one of the new press releases from my paper. I published a paper about how wildfires are changing the environment in California, and that paper basically got really viral because everyone was interested in that. But it doesn't stop here, and we need to also, one thing that throughout my journey I keep in my mind is I need to give back to my society, like the society that educates me, my country, Niger. So whenever I have like opportunity, or I have to go back home, even like for holidays, for vacation, for whatever I can, I try to talk to girls, especially girls, because we have a lot of problems, as we know, that girls are not in technology, girls are not in science, girls are not doing mathematics, but we really need to change this, because we know that we need girls today to be able to change the world. So yeah, whenever I went back to home, I tried to talk to girls, I tried to motivate them and to encourage them to do science. And also in California, that's something that I am really passionate about, is able to motivate girls also. So whenever I have time, like on weekends or like after work, I try to go to talk to girls, high school, girls in middle school, like whatever like age of them, just trying to show them that basically that world is full of problems, we know that, but really we need science to do it. And science can't only be done by men, we need women there, and we need you guys. So that's my one occupation that I developed. The other thing that I love to do is to share my science. Because, you know, whenever you use that technology, whenever you develop a methodology, whenever you develop an app, you need to show to people that you have done it. And this is you that have done it. As a girl also, because we need to speak up, we need to show to the world that we are actually doing it and we can do it. So we need to go and show to the world what we have done. That's something I think it's really important today. So we need to change that narrative. When we think about also science, about technology, about AI today, people are going to say men, and usually white men. But if we stay behind and we didn't step out to say that we are doing this, no one is going to know that. So it's really important to you to go and share your science, share what you are doing, and share what you have found. That's something important. And also, I had some high-level discussion throughout my career. I will meet the president of National Academy of Science of the United States, some senator, and some congressmen. I think that is really important also, because we are using science basically to be able to tackle some issues that are really important. Then our findings need to be used to make decisions at the high level of our society, because we know that politicians are going to make that decision, and that decision is going to change our lives. So it's really important to be able to share our science also with these people, to be able to make decisions, to be able to make policy and stuff. So even if like today, in one of your challenges was about climate change and developing a methodology for wildfires, or like how to track floods. If you develop this, it's really important at some point to talk to people in the government and stuff, to be able to show them that you have done it and you are a girl, you have done it. Then they need to use it to be able to make decisions, basically. So I have received also a lot of awards during my postdoctoral research in the United States. One of them of MIT, like in the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, which is like one of the highest universities in the world in terms of technology and science. And they recognized me as a rising star in civil and environmental engineering. That's the figure on the left. Then I was included in the Forbes 30 under 30 in the United States, and basically the magazine Forbes is highlighting 30 people that are under 30 and are doing great in science. That's something that I got also in 2019. And as a girl coming from Niger, again, Niger is the last country in the world. We do not have science. Actually, it was something science, I really discovered science when I was curious, but I didn't know that my curiosity basically is doing science. I didn't know how to use it. The first time that I actually used a computer was when I was 16, 17 at university. So, and then I discovered that computer, and then I was able to use that computer and other technology to address some key issues. So, but these awards, they really keep me moving forward. as I said before, I do not stop like there and say that I got it. We need to think about that this world, we need to do more in that world. We need to keep moving forward. We need to change also the narrative of girls and women in general. And we need to use science. We have a lot of problems in that world that we really need to take care. So I'm really pushing forward stuff, really trying to work hard. And science is something that is my passion, using computer. I can work, like open my computer in airports to be able to do stuff. I can work like in coffee or like on holidays. It's really something that is that's my passion. And so because that passion really comes from the fact that I wanted to address some key issues in my society. So if you're doing something because you want really to change something and you really want to do it, I think that we can put all the energy that you do have to be able to achieve your goal. And then I made it to NASA. I got a job offer from NASA because actually 6 months ago, and I was very surprised because, you know, NASA is something that I have seen in movie, but back in my home in Niger. And going up from Niger, actually, I didn't know that I was able to visit one day the United States of America. It was something like the big country. And actually, the first time that I traveled outside my country is when I got my finished high school. I was going to university. It was the first time that actually I took an airplane. And then that happened like at 16, that girl coming from Zender, going up, I was like just doing myself, maybe I'll go to do the bachelor. I really didn't think that one day I'll make it to NASA. Here I have some picture when I was like when I was doing my middle school in Niger, and then 2 pictures where I made it to NASA. And I became the first Nigerian to work for NASA. As I said, Nigeria is the last country in the world. And today I'm very proud of it because the first Nigerian that made it to NASA is actually a woman. It showed to many girls that it doesn't mean that science is for men or women cannot do stuff. You can be the first one to do it as a woman, not as a man, which is something possible. And I think that really think that the next generation can do it. We can change our narratives and girls can do it. So, and the president of Niger actually called me to congratulate me because the president of Niger is someone that really cares about science and think that we need to use technology to be able to solve many issues that we have in Niger. Something like education, something like health, something like climate change, that all these problems is the problem that are affecting our country. And today, we know that we need that technology to be able to solve these problems. So he called to congratulate me and then to say also to other girls in Niger that they too can do it. They too today can think that they can become a scientist at NASA, one of the big research institutions in the world, and they can achieve it. That was something that also made me proud, and today I'm very eager also to like really push girls, because you don't have to be the only one today. Even if today I'm the only one Nigerian at NASA, I'm like the only one Nigerian woman doing this stuff. I think that we need to change the narrative. We need all these women to come together and to help and to change that narrative. That's something so to wrap up what I have done, from Niger actually, I was able to travel the world and to use only my technology. By technology, I just mathematical model and high performance computing system to address water resources issues. My first goal was to help my country because I was seeing water resources issue in my hometown. By then, I came to understand that water resources issues are in every part of the world. Wherever you are in the world, you can have a water-related problem. In my country, it can be water scarcity. In many other countries like Asia, it can be floods. In other countries, it can be water resources pollution. And we need water. Basically, 70% of our body is made of water. We need water to be able to live. We need water every day, and water is a part of our daily lives. Then I really explored. Today, at the age of 29, I've come to explore water resources issue across countries and continents. Like in France, I studied groundwater pollution. In Italy, I use model and technology to be able to understand ecosystem preservation and water resources issue related to ecosystem. In the United States, in California, I use technology to be able to understand the impact of climate extremes and wildfires on water resources. I also study in Colorado, which is like mountainous region in the United States, to be able to see what's the water problem there, again, using technology. I also, of course, study water resources issue, how climate change is affecting our community in Africa and in the Sahel region in general. And also I study water resources in Africa. So I've come to work across continents and countries as a girl coming from Niger, using technology and also my driving by my eagerness to solve problems and to my thirst for knowledge. So, and I will continue to do so, as I said. It's just like the beginning. I feel like when I see that map of the world, I feel like there are a lot of countries that I need to fill in. And also technology is something that is changing very fast. You know, the machine learning approach that we are using today is going to change the next day or like next week or next years. So everything is moving fast and we need to move fast about it. With it. And also climate change is happening like very fast and we need to adapt, we need to provide solutions. This is not going to stop today. That's why also I say that we need girls, we need you guys to come with us and to use all that technology to be able to solve all these issues. And something that I want to highlight really today, a quote that I love is, one life gives you lemon, make lemonade. Basically, I have come to work at NASA, I have come to be Forbes under 30, but I didn't have all the skills and I didn't have like the profile that is like, when you think about a scientist working at NASA or someone who is in the Forbes under 30, you can think about someone who went to like all these big universities or someone coming from like a big country, but I came from Niger. And actually, I never went to like all this big university, but really, I really use whatever life gives me to be able to show my best. And that's what makes me what I am today. So even if you do not have today, you feel that you have a lot of something that you are missing in your life, you can really use whatever you have today, make the best of it, and you can go further with that. You don't need to be on the top. Basically, if you're on the top, so why are you going to go up? So really, you might not have like all the opportunity, you might not have like all the thing that you think about to be able to succeed, but you can use whatever you have today and just do something with that and dream big. Really, you have to think about like the big picture, as American used to say. You need to think about the big picture. Even if you are in your small house today in your country, just think about the big picture and say that you may achieve it someday. You might not have achieved it in 1 or 2 years, but really you can do it like in many years. And believe in your dreams. That's like the key things. When you dream big, you need to believe in your dreams and be able to say that every day I will take a step to be close to that dream and to achieve it. So I think that's all that I have today. And another thing that I want to highlight, I really want you girls as the future generation and the next generation. We live in a climate change era. Climate change is happening, and as someone that is using data to be able to understand climate change, what I'm seeing from my models is really making me sad sometimes, because I can see the future in my models. I know what's going to happen. And then sometimes I feel sad about this next generation. I say that, what are we going to leave them? But then what makes me happy is we have technology today and we have all the tools that we need to change that. So really use all that tools to change that and to address issues that we have in the world. So I think that's all that I have today. I will be happy to take all your questions and stuff.
That is amazing, Faji. I am just so happy that you have joined us today. And what an incredible story. I have never heard a story like this. And this is just so inspiring to hear a story from you as well. You know, a little girl in a tiny place in Niger, dreaming from a really young age to change the world, and look at you now. This is incredible. I want every single girl out there listening, watching this stream, to really start believing in her abilities to change the world.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
if Faji was able to do this from where she comes from, you know, everything is possible. And I've always said this all along. And even the story with me, I come from a tiny town in Uzbekistan called Bukhara. Faji, you will know this as an Earth NASA
Yeah.
where this is. We're a double landlocked country. I have never even seen water until I was about 20. So I
Wow.
always tell my story as well. When I was a tiny girl, you know, teenager, and my mom told me, learn to speak English and this will be, you know, this will open up the world to you. The world will be your oyster. And I listened to my mom's advice. The only child out of 3 of us decided that I wanted to learn English. And that really opened so many doors to me. But Faji, your story is just incredible. So we have got quite a number of questions, obviously, for you. And the first one is how important is diversity in technology?
I think it's very, I can say that diversity is a key to developing technology today, because we need diversity, as that word became just a global village. Everything that's happening today is not just one side of the world, it's happening around across the world. And we need a lot of people thinking differently. You know, we cannot like just move someone thinking like, if we take people from just one kind of ethnicity or one kind of background thinking about one problem, they just have only one way of thinking. But today we need to explore a lot of ways of thinking. And for me also, I have not come to know it because as I travel from Africa to Europe, also to United States, I can see that things are changing across countries and continents. People are not thinking in the same way, but we need all these kind of different thinkings. And that's why today I think it's very, very important to have diversity in technology, and it's like the key to developing technology today.
Brilliant. And what advice would you offer to a young girl in this hackathon who is one day interested in becoming a data scientist or embrace her career in AI? Do you have any tips and advice, perhaps your top 3 advice to a girl like this who is an aspiring data scientist?
I think I can say that you need to believe in your dream, whatever you want to do today. I can also share again my story. As I said, I didn't have a computer when I was in high school. When I was your age, I didn't have a computer. Actually, I didn't even know how to code. Like, basically, at some point in my life, was when I was in Morocco, we do not have a lot of computer to be able to code every day. But when I realized that I need to be able to learn Fortran, to speak all these languages that I can have today, I just put myself in. I just keep going, adding my additional time. Like when I finish high school, I will finish my school at 6. I can go out again to have additional hour and be able to do it. And to girls, it might not be easy because in this era, like most of the people are men. So you can have a lot of problems. But believe in yourself. If you think that you are going there, it's not only about you, but it's also all the generation of all the girls that are watching you, that are going to be inspired by you. Just be that you belong there. You belong there and you need to go to move forward. So just keep, and data scientist today is very good stuff because I love internet today. Because whenever I have a problem, I just go to Google it, and to be part also of a community. There are a lot of community out there. People have been developing a lot of things. I think if you want to do that data science, you need to be part of that community because something that you want to do, maybe someone has already done it. So we really need to talk to people.
Great. And we do have some other questions. How would you inspire more girls of color to pursue STEM careers, particularly from countries where they are actively discouraged from doing so?
Yeah. So what I have been doing at like the next second thing, they have been discouraged of doing so. I think in my country it's the case in Niger. Basically, if a girl wants to do like mathematics, computer science, everybody is going to tell her, that's not for you. But who says that? No, I'm here, I'm doing it. I'm a woman of color. I come from Niger, I'm doing it. So you too can do it. So I was talking to the parent directly, or to these adults people, saying to them that we need to stop saying to girls that they cannot do it. Because if you say to a girl that she can do it, she will do it. It's basically the same for men. That's what people have been doing for men. People have been saying to men that you can do it because you are man, you are smart. Even if the man is not smart, he's going to think that he's smart, actually, that he can do it. So we need to do the same for girls. It doesn't mean that they cannot do it. And also, like, it's very important today, as a scientist, as a data scientist, as a woman of color, as a Black woman today, I feel that I need to show myself and to talk, just to be able to show to the other girl that I'm doing it. It's very important to have a representation. When I was a girl, I didn't see a scientist, a woman scientist that is Black or African. And really, I didn't know, but I just believe in my imagination that it could exist. But we really need to be able to say that we are here, we are doing it. So you can also do it. It's very important. Representation matters today. And even if, like, you yourself, whenever you achieve, even if you are today 16, you're a teenager, think about like the young girl that's just like coming or like going to the kindergarten. She can look up to you and you can be your role model. So we really need role model. We need to talk about it openly to show to people we can do it. We are here also to do it.
Fantastic. We have a question from a teenage girl here. What advice do you have to girls experiencing discrimination or mean comments from people in school and work?
I think one thing is to talk about it. Do not stay, like, if an environment is toxic for you, it's going to be difficult for you to succeed. Talk about someone who is adult, who can really understand you. That's a very big problem, and I think that we should talk about it. You should speak up. If you cannot do it, you can ask your friend, or your parents also can help you to address that issue. And also, to your end, what I used to do for myself, I really, even if like the problem is kind of sorted out, I want to go back to show to the people that they were wrong. Basically, sometimes I just give myself, if I think that someone is just think I cannot do it, I will just like give 100 or 1,000% of myself to do the work and to show to the world that I can do it. So you were wrong, what you are thinking. But yeah, talk to your parent, talk to an adult, talk to someone in your school or university about what's happening, because this can be like a big problem.
Definitely, absolutely. And I really love the fact that you just mentioned that when somebody says no to you, you just go and prove them wrong. So how many times, Faji, have you had somebody say no to you?
Yeah, I have had, when some people, like, when you are the first person to do something, like, even like someone in your entourage can really think that you cannot do it. So sometimes I really have to go, and I can add it on my additional time, like on weekend, I can really work on that things, and then just come back to be able to show to that person, you were wrong. Because people have a lot of biases in their minds. Sometimes they have no proof for that. It just in their mind that they think that we cannot do it because we can be young. I have a lot of issues, like, throughout my career. I was young. I was always the youngest person. I was Black. I was from Africa. And sometimes I also, like, in an English-speaking country, I used to speak French. So people can really add all these kind of biases on you and then feel like you cannot do it. But really, sometimes I really want to change the narrative. So I will go to do the work and then come to say, hey, I have done it. So it just means that I can do it. And the people usually can change their minds. And also, in all these steps, think about it's not only about yourself, it's all the people that are going to come, and also all your environment, people who looks like you and stuff. So it's not about you, but it's about like an entire community.
That's brilliant. That is exactly what we need, girls standing in their power and showing to everyone that they can do everything they have set their minds to do. So. Exactly. Yeah, brilliant. So, Faji, you will be really pleased to hear that we have at least 4 or 5 teams out of 23 teams in our hackathon who are tackling climate change. And so, which I'm really excited about as well. And so we have a question from one of the teams: how can students raise awareness for climate change? Obviously, we have some great examples already, some amazing role models. Greta Thunberg is one of them. But these teenagers in the hackathon are trying to design something using AI to encourage many other teenagers across the globe to really take action and show them what might happen if action is not taken now. What can they do to raise that awareness?
I think social media is a big thing today. So, and if you think about teenagers across all the world, that's something that they have in common. Many teenagers can be from like someone from Niger or someone from like France or United States. They are using social media, and you as a teenager, you develop it so you can adapt to the language of teenager. Of like, how are you going to explain to someone who is like you? Maybe they are not like very interested in climate change, but find a way that's going to convince that person. Like an example that I can give is like if someone loves music, you can make it like sounds about climate change. So you can like push the person to listen to that music. And then when listening to the person is going to understand something. It's really adapting, like knowing what the person loves to do. And then you can just tackle it to insert climate change in that stuff. That's basically something that I'm doing with my people in my country, because I know that like usually like talking to them as like speech, nobody's going to listen to you. So you really need to kind of find a way that they love to like enjoy, or it can be like a movie, it can be like jokes or stuff. And then I try to have their way of communicating, and then I say what I want to say to them. And then you can use social media. For social media is a big platform that we can use today. And even if like some people might think that we have a lot of like people talking about climate change on social media, I don't think that it's not compared to other problems or compared to something that will become viral, but it's not critical for us.
Brilliant. So thank you so much, Faji, for joining us. And this has been an incredibly exciting exchange. And it was such an honor to host you here today with us on International Day of a Girl Child. So I couldn't have thought of a better, guest to have with us today. So you and Renee and Dilek have really made my day, my evening rather, because it's already getting late here in London. But I'm really grateful you have joined us. We will be emailing you with many more questions because there are many more pouring.
Yeah.
So you could respond to us.
Yeah.
And really, you are such a role model and such an inspiration, and we want to see you again. We will definitely invite you to our podcast, because we have got teenagers who listen to that podcast. And if you are not subscribed, so please do find us on iTunes and Spotify, because we will definitely invite Faji again for the podcast as well, because it's so important to have all of these questions answered by incredible people like Faji. You are such an inspiration to everyone, to every single girl out there, whether she's from Niger or any other part of the world. And we are so grateful you have honored us with your presence today on International Day of a Girl Child. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much for inviting me. That was very good. And thank you. I'm looking forward to stay in touch with you and also to answer to other questions that the teenagers are going to have. I'm here for you, and I really want you to go and do it. I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be just like 2 or 3 people doing it. I want all of you from all over the world to come here to use technology to address all the problems that we have in this world. Thank you.
Indeed, and we do have many problems, and even right now in times of COVID, as the world is recovering from COVID, there are many more problems to solve, and we need diversity in tech and many more girls to join Faji on her journey as well. So thank you so much to everyone for joining us today. We've heard from 3 most inspiring speakers, and tomorrow we will be back here at 5 o'clock. Join us to hear hear from other incredibly inspiring speakers, and we will be doing this every week to celebrate International Day of a Girl Child and Ada Lovelace Day. So see you back here tomorrow, and thank you so much for joining us on this incredible journey. So to all teenagers out there, keep solving incredible problems using data science and AI. I will be back in Discord to see and check in with every single team, and I'm so excited about everything you're doing right now. So you're very fortunate, very lucky. You have this incredible opportunity and incredible people like Fadji to inspire you on your journeys. Thank you so much again, Fadji. We will be seeing you soon, and I will be back in Discord shortly. So we're ending our stream right now, and have a great evening or night, everyone. Thank you.